The courtroom erupted in stunned silence as Marlo Wendra Harrington, the 28-year-old heiress to the Harrington fortune, declared her marriage to a complete stranger right before the judge could finalize her family's forced union with a business tycoon's son. Whispers turned to gasps when she produced the marriage certificate, dated just hours earlier, her hands trembling but her voice steady as steel. But as the ink dried on the legal escape, Marlo had no idea that her new wife, Jordan Ramirez, carried a shadow from her past that could shatter everything. Marlo paced the marble floors of her family's Manhattan penthouse, the city lights twinkling like distant stars through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was midnight, and the weight of her decision pressed down like an invisible vice. Her father, Reginald Harrington, a titan of Wall Street, had orchestrated the arranged marriage to consolidate power with the Vanderbilts, old money merging with new tech billions. "It's for the family legacy," he'd said, his eyes cold as the steel beams holding up their empire. But Marlo knew better. It was control, pure and simple. She couldn't stomach the thought of a life scripted by others, especially not with a man when her heart had always yearned for someone else. Jordan, or Joe as she preferred, had entered Marlo's life like a whirlwind. They'd met at a charity gala Marlo hosted for LGBTQ+ youth, where Joe was volunteering as a barista to make ends meet. Joe's dark eyes and quiet confidence had cut through the superficial chatter, and in a moment of desperation, Marlo proposed the arrangement, a marriage of convenience. Joe, buried in student debt and facing eviction from her Brooklyn apartment, had agreed after a single coffee date. "What's the catch?" Joe had asked, her voice laced with skepticism. "No catch," Marlo replied. "Just freedom for both of us." The wedding was a farce, a quick ceremony at City Hall with 2 witnesses pulled from the line outside. Marlo wore a simple white dress, Joe in jeans and a leather jacket. They exchanged rings that meant nothing, vows that echoed hollow in the sterile room. But as they signed the papers, Marlo felt a flicker of something real. A spark in Joe's touch that made her pulse quicken. She pushed it down. This was business, not romance. Back in the penthouse, Marlo poured herself a scotch, the amber liquid burning her throat. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Missed calls from her father, texts from her mother pleading for reason. "You've humiliated us," one read. Marlo ignored them, focusing instead on the stranger now legally bound to her. Joe had insisted on her own space, crashing on a friend's couch until they figured out logistics. But Marlo's mind raced. What if this backfired? What if Joe demanded more than the agreed-upon stipend? Morning brought confrontation. Reginald stormed into Marlo's office at Harrington Enterprises, his face flushed with rage. "You think this stunt changes anything? That woman, who is she? Some gold digger you picked up off the street." Marlo stood her ground, her executive chair feeling like a throne of thorns. "She's my wife, Dad. And this marriage is legal. The Vanderbilt deal is off." Reginald's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that. Dig into her past, Marlo. Everyone has skeletons." Marlo dismissed the warning, but doubt crept in. She hired a private investigator on a whim, telling herself it was due diligence. The report arrived that evening. Jordan Ramirez, 27, from a working-class family in Queens. Dropped out of NYU after her mother's death from cancer. Worked odd jobs, waitress, delivery driver. No criminal record but a gap in her history 2 years ago. Possible alias, the note read. Marlo shoved the file away, guilt gnawing at her. Trust was the foundation of their deal. Why sabotage it? Joe arrived at the penthouse that night, carrying a duffel bag. "Figured we should at least pretend to live together," she said with a wry smile. Marlo showed her to the guest room, the air thick with unspoken questions. Over takeout Chinese they really talked. Joe shared stories of her childhood, the bullying she faced for being different, in a conservative neighborhood. Marlo opened up about her boarding school days, the secret crushes on girls that she buried under family expectations. Laughter mingled with vulnerability, and for the first time Marlo felt seen. But as they parted for bed, Joe's phone lit up with a text. "We need to talk." "It's about her." Joe deleted it quickly, her face paling. Marlo pretended not to notice, but the seed of suspicion took root. In the days that followed, the media frenzy exploded. Tabloids splashed headlines. Heiress's shock wedding. Love or loophole? Protesters gathered outside Harrington Tower, some cheering the bold move for gay rights, others decrying it as a mockery of marriage. Marlowe's board members whispered about instability, stock prices dipping slightly. Joe navigated the chaos with surprising grace, attending events on Marlowe's arm. At a fundraiser, an older woman approached them. "You're brave," she said to Marlowe. "But love like this, it's a battlefield." Joe squeezed Marlowe's hand, a gesture that sent warmth through her veins. Was it acting? Or something more? Tension mounted when Marlowe's sister, Emily, visited. Emily, ever the peacemaker, pulled Marlowe aside. "Dad's furious but Mom's worried about you. Is this real?" Marlowe hesitated. "It's complicated." Emily eyed Joe suspiciously. "Just be careful. People aren't always who they seem." That night, Marlowe confronted Joe gently. "Tell me about the gap in your resume. 2 years ago." Joe's eyes flashed with panic, then defiance. "It's nothing. A rough patch after Mom died. I traveled, figured things out." Marlowe wanted to believe her, but the lie hung between them like fog. As Joe turned away, Marlowe felt the first crack in their fragile alliance. The pressure from family escalated. Reginald cut off Marlowe's access to certain funds, forcing her to dip into personal savings. "Prove your independence," he sneered in a voicemail. Joe offered to get a job, but Marlowe refused. Pride or protection, she wasn't sure. Their conversations grew deeper, nights spent debating societal norms, the hypocrisy of wealth. Joe challenged Marlowe. "You have everything but you're trapped. Why not fight back?" Marlowe realized Joe was right. This marriage was her first real rebellion. Yet whispers of betrayal loomed. Joe received anonymous calls, her past threatening to surface. She confided partially. "I was in a bad relationship. It ended messy." Marlowe nodded, but unease festered. One evening, after a heated board meeting where Marlowe defended her choices, she came home to find Joe packing. "I can't do this," Joe said, tears streaming. "It's too much." Marlowe's heart shattered. "Stay. Please." Joe hesitated, then unpacked. In that moment, the line between convenience and connection blurred. The anonymous letter arrived in a plain envelope, slipped under the penthouse door like a venomous snake. "Ask your wife about Elena." It read in typed font, no signature. Marlowe's hand shook as she stared at it, Joe still asleep in the guest room. This was the escalation she'd feared. Her father's doing, no doubt. Confrontation came over breakfast. Marlowe slid the letter across the table. Joe's face drained of color. "Elena was my ex," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "We were together for 3 years. It ended badly. She accused me of theft, but it was a lie to hurt me." Marlowe pressed. "Why hide it?" Joe looked away. "Because it could ruin everything. Your family would use it against us." Doubt poisoned their days. Marlowe dove into work, negotiating deals to stabilize Harrington Enterprises amid the scandal. Board members questioned her judgment. "This marriage, it's a distraction." She fired back. "It's my life." But internally she wrestled with trust. Was Joe using her? The stipend, the luxury, temptations for anyone struggling. Joe, meanwhile, faced her own battles. She enrolled in night classes at NYU, determined to finish her degree in social work. "I won't be your charity case," she told Marlowe. Their interactions grew tense, laced with unspoken accusations. At a gala, a reporter cornered Joe. "What's it like marrying into money?" Joe smiled tightly. "It's about partnership, not profit." But the question stung. Family pressure intensified. Marlowe's mother, Victoria, invited them to the Hamptons estate for reconciliation. The drive was silent, Joe gripping the wheel of Marlowe's Porsche. Upon arrival, Victoria embraced Marlowe warmly but eyed Joe coolly. Over dinner, Reginald dominated. "This charade ends now. Annul it, and we'll forget the embarrassment." Marlowe refused. "I love." She stopped, the word slipping out unintended. Joe's eyes widened. That night, in the guest house, truth spilled. "Do you?" Joe asked. Marlowe confessed. "It's starting to feel real." Joe leaned in, their lips brushing in a tentative kiss. the first genuine connection. But guilt followed. Joe pulled back. There's more to Elena. She blackmailed me after I left her. I paid her off with what little I had. Marlo felt betrayed. Why not tell me? Joe, fear of losing this of you. The weekend devolved into chaos. Emily overheard and confronted Joe. You're dragging my sister down. Joe stormed out, driving back to the city alone. Marlo followed, arriving to find Joe with a packed bag again. I can't handle the judgment, Joe said. Marlo begged. Fight with me. They reconciled, but scars formed. Society's backlash hit hard. Conservative donors pulled funding from Marlo's charities, citing moral decay. Protests turned ugly. Slurs shouted at their building. Joe received hate mail. Gold-digging dyke. She broke down in Marlo's arms, vulnerability cracking her facade. Marlo hired security, but the isolation deepened their bond, or so she thought. Joe's past resurfaced via a lawsuit. Elena filed claims of fraud, alleging Joe had stolen jewelry during their breakup. The papers hit the tabloids. Heiress's wife a thief? Marlo's lawyer advised distance, but she stood by Joe. We'll fight it. Investigations revealed Elena's motives: jealousy and greed. Joe had evidence, texts showing extortion, but using it meant exposing painful details. In court prep, Joe revealed the full story. Elena was abusive, controlling. I left after she hit me. Marlo's heart ached. Why stay silent? Joe, shame and fear of not being believed. The admission shifted everything. Marlo saw Joe's strength, her own privilege blinding her to real struggles. But betrayal lurked. Reginald met Joe secretly, offering money to leave. Name your price. Joe refused, but the encounter shook her. She told Marlo, who exploded at her father. Stay out of my life. The fallout. Reginald threatened disinheritance. Marlo chose Joe over fortune, transferring assets into trusts. Their relationship evolved amid turmoil. Shared therapy sessions unpacked traumas, Marlo's repressed sexuality, Joe's abusive past. Intimacy grew, not physical but emotional, in late-night talks and supportive gestures. Yet, external forces pressed. A whistleblower leaked Harrington financial irregularities, blaming Marlo's distractions. Stocks plummeted. Joe suggested a press conference. Own our story. They did, hand in hand. This marriage started as convenience, but it's become love. The public response mixed. Support from LGBTQ+ communities, backlash from traditionalists. Marlo's business recovered slightly, but personal costs mounted. Friends distanced, family fractured. As tensions peaked, Joe received a call from Elena. Drop the countersuit or I'll destroy you both. Joe wavered, considering sacrifice. Marlo overheard. Don't. We'll face it together. But Joe's decision loomed, a test of loyalty. Elena's ultimatum hung like a guillotine. Joe paced the penthouse, phone clutched tightly. She has photos, private ones from our time together. If they leak. Marlo pulled her close. We sue for revenge porn. She won't win. But fear etched Joe's face, a reminder of past vulnerabilities. The lawsuit hearing approached, nerves fraying. Marlo's lawyer uncovered Elena's instability, prior restraining orders from other exes. We can discredit her, he said. Joe nodded, but doubt lingered. What if the jury sees me as the poor girl conning the rich one? Marlo reassured. They'll see the truth. Family interference escalated. Victoria visited unannounced, tears in her eyes. Your father's heart, the stress is killing him. Marlo saw manipulation. He brought this on himself. Victoria turned to Joe. If you care, end this. Joe stood firm. I love your daughter. The word love stunned Victoria into silence. Society's microscope intensified. A viral op-ed labeled their marriage a farce exploiting queer rights. Counter-protests emerged, allies rallying with signs. Love wins. Joe spoke at a rally, voice strong. We're not symbols, we're people fighting for our truth. Applause thundered, but exhaustion followed. Internal conflicts deepened. Marlo questioned her motives. Was this rebellion or genuine affection? Joe wrestled with guilt. I'm bringing you down. Therapy revealed patterns. Marlo's avoidance of commitment, Joe's fear of abandonment. A breakthrough. We chose each other, Marlo said. Joe smiled, hope flickering. But betrayal struck. Emily, swayed by Reginald, leaked details to the press about Joe's past payments to Elena. Headlines screamed, "Payoffs and deceit in Heiress's marriage." Joe confronted Emily. Why? Emily. To protect Marlo. The family rift widened. Marlo cut ties with Emily. In court, Elena testified dramatically, painting Joe as manipulative. Joe took the stand, voice steady. I was the victim. Evidence mounted, texts, bank records. The judge ruled in their favor, dismissing claims. Victory tasted bittersweet. Reputations tarnished. Post-trial relief bred intimacy. They vacationed in the Catskills away from chaos. Hikes and fireside chats healed wounds. I never expected this, Joe admitted. Marlo. Me neither. But I'm glad. Return brought new challenges. Reginald suffered a mild heart attack, blaming stress. Marlo visited the hospital reluctantly. I did what I had to, she said. Reginald whispered. For what? Happiness. Marlo. Yes. He softened slightly, but reconciliation was distant. Joe's career blossomed. She graduated, landing a job at a nonprofit. Independence empowered her, but distance crept in. Marlo buried in work, Joe in advocacy. Arguments flared. You're never here, Joe accused. Marlo. I'm fighting for us. A turning point. Joe discovered Marlo had paid off her remaining debts secretly. You don't trust me to handle it? Hurt, Joe moved out temporarily to a friend's. Marlo panicked, realizing her control mirrored her father's. Reunion came after reflection. Marlo apologized. I was wrong, Joe. We built together. Their bond strengthened, but shadows remained. Society evolved slowly. A documentary featured their story, sparking debates on marriage equality and class divides. Support grew, but haters persisted. As highs were, lows plunged deeper. Joe received a job offer in California. A dream role. It's a chance to make a difference, she said. Marlo. But us. The decision tore at them. Stay for love or pursue purpose. Marlo grappled with sacrifice. Go, she urged, hiding pain. Joe hesitated, weighing costs. Joe's California offer loomed, a fork in their road. It's directing a youth center for at-risk LGBTQ+ kids, she explained, eyes alight. Marlo forced a smile. You deserve it. But inside, fear churned. Distance could unravel them. Debates ensued. We can make long-distance work, Joe suggested. Marlo shook her head. Not with our lives. Reginald, recovering, offered unsolicited advice. Let her go. It's for the best. Marlo ignored him, but seeds of doubt sprouted. Joe's departure neared. Packing boxes symbolizing change. A farewell dinner with friends turned emotional. Toasts to their journey, but undercurrents of uncertainty. That night, Marlo confessed. I'm scared of losing you, Joe. This isn't goodbye. At the airport, tears flowed. Call every day, Marlo whispered. Joe boarded, leaving Marlo hollow. Weeks blurred into loneliness. Video calls sustained them, but time zones and schedules strained. Marlo threw herself into reform, advocating for company diversity, donating to causes. Success felt empty without Joe. Family thawed slightly. Victoria hosted dinner. You've grown, she said. Marlo. Thanks to Joe. Joe thrived in LA, her center impacting lives. But homesickness hit. I miss you, she admitted. Visits were passionate, reunions but brief. Betrayal resurfaced. A colleague in LA pursued Joe aggressively. Joe rebuffed, but photos surfaced online. Innocent drinks misconstrued. Tabloids twisted. Heiress's wife cheats? Marlo's trust fractured. Is it true? She demanded over phone. Joe, no. Believe me. Marlo flew to LA, confrontation raw. I do believe you, she said after hearing details. But damage lingered. They recommitted, but vulnerability exposed cracks. Society's gaze shifted. Their story inspired books, podcasts. Marlo spoke at conferences. Love demands sacrifice. Applause rang but personal toll mounted. Reginald's full recovery brought olive branch. I'm proud in my way. Marlo accepted tentatively, boundaries firm. Jo faced her own crisis. Funding cuts threatened her center. I might have to close it. Marlo offered help. Use my resources. Jo refused initially. Not your charity. Compromise. Joint fundraiser. The event in NYC reunited them. Sparks reignited amid glamour. But post-event, Jo revealed. Elena contacted me again. Wants money to stay silent. Marlo. We end this. They filed charges. Elena arrested for harassment. Victory empowered, but Jo's job pulled her back. I can't leave the kids. Marlo. Then I'll move. Shock. Your empire? Marlo. You're my world. Decision weighed heavy. Marlo negotiated remote work, relocating partially. Compromise tested limits. Internal awakenings. Marlo embraced her identity fully, coming out publicly beyond marriage. Jo confronted past traumas in therapy. As they navigated, love deepened amid trials. But a final twist. Emily apologized, revealing Reginald's manipulation and leaks. I was wrong. Healing began. Relocation to LA marked a new chapter. Marlo splitting time between coasts. The Hollywood Hills home they shared buzzed with energy. Jo's workdays at the center, Marlo's virtual meetings. Harmony seemed possible, but undercurrents stirred. Jo's success brought envy. A board member at her nonprofit accused her of favoritism, citing her high-profile marriage. Investigations cleared her, but stress mounted. It's never ending, Jo confided. Marlo. We're stronger together. Family reconciliation progressed. Reginald visited awkward but sincere. I see now your happiness matters. Marlo forgave gradually, bridges mending. Society's acceptance grew. Their story featured in pride parades. But backlash persisted, online trolls, death threats. Security became routine, freedom curtailed. Deepest conflict. Children. Jo wanted a family. Marlo hesitated, fearing repetition of her upbringing. Discussions turned heated. I won't raise kids in chaos, Marlo argued. Jo. Chaos is life. Compromise eluded. A health scare for Jo. Exhaustion leading to hospitalization. Forces perspective. Marlo rushed to her side. I can't lose you. Jo recovered, but the event awakened them. Let's try. Marlo agreed on family planning. Adoption process began, bureaucratic hurdles testing patience. Rejections due to public scrutiny hurt. Finally, approval for fostering a teen girl, Mia, who mirrored their pasts, queer from a broken home. Mia's arrival transformed them. Parenting challenges, rebellions, heart-to-hearts. Jo excelled, Marlo learned vulnerability. But Mia's biological family contested. Legal battles ensuing. Amidst, Elena's trial concluded with conviction. Closure at last. Highs. Mia's integration, family bonds. Lows. Marlo's business suffered from divided attention, forcing tough choices, selling shares. Ultimate awakening. At a quiet dinner, Jo proposed properly, ring in hand. Marry me again for real. Marlo accepted, tears of joy. Their vow renewal was intimate, beachside, symbolizing rebirth. Friends, family attended. Even Reginald walked Marlo down the aisle. Yet, peace was hard-won. Mia's case resolved in their favor, but scars remained. In reflection, Marlo pondered paths taken. Rebellions, betrayals, sacrifices. Jo's past, once a threat, became a testament to resilience. The story culminated in quiet triumph, but left a lingering question. Was escaping one cage worth building another? Or does true freedom lie in the chains we choose? Was it right to prioritize personal love over familial duty, knowing the collateral damage it caused?